Okay, so we already got a little bit down Kufya tests. All right, so we got to do. We got to try at least do Thursdays.
So Yaakov, this amount that we posted for tomorrow works?
What did we post for tomorrow?
I think 5? No, what do we say? Hold on, let me just double check before you start.
Sorry for disturbing.
4:55.
4:55.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's 5 to 5, Aaron, yes.
5 to 5.
Take your Baron.
5 to 5. What time is Shkia tomorrow? What, 6:05? In that area. Yeah, that should be fine. Let's see how far we get tonight. Tonight, the second half of the daf is there's a lot of drushes. Anyways, okay. So you hit the record?
Yeah, it's Yaakov. You good? You good?
Okay. So on Kufya Testament Aleph, we can continue the sugi of B'nai Slavcha. 2 dots, about 10, 11 lines down from the top. So we said that a bechar, meaning tzlavcha, they got four chalakim. Right? Part of it was because their father, tzlavcha, was the B'nai Tzlavcha got 4 chalakim. Part of it was because their father was Chefer's bechar, so they got double. So we said yesterday that a bechar only collects double from. We didn't like the word liquid assets, right? We didn't like that. It was more from stuff that the father who died definitely has, meaning nothing that has to be collected or anything like that.
They're getting everything from Giuliani, so.
Yeah. So the Gemara is saying now, well, this is only Roy, right? He was only Roy to get. Slacha was only Roy to get the land. They weren't in Eretz Yisrael yet. So it was only Roy to get. Well, this kasha came up. So then why are they getting double? So that's the Gemara's kasha. V'amai Roy who? It's V'amai. Why? Why are they getting double? Roy who? All it is was Roy, meaning Slavchan was supposed to collect it, but he didn't collect it yet. And a Bechar does not take with Roy as if there's Muksuk. Right? So how does that work? So Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. So, but you say this Ayolim. It's talking about the how do you call it? The pegs of the tent. Meaning they weren't whatever was whatever was what's the word again? He didn't get to then. It's a big chiddush. But the Gemara is going to slug it up in a minute. But they're saying that the B'nai Tzlavcha, not he, she, they did not get the land because that was Taka Roy, meaning they didn't get the double of that. They got the tent and all the stuff that you could, that's tangible. Let's call it that. That they got, but nothing more than that. So then, right away the Gemara asks, Masa Rabbah, B'nai Tzlavcha not ludal chalakim. It says that the Bnei Tzlavcha got 4 chalakim, shenemar v'yiplu chevle menashe asara, and there were 10 chalakim for Menashe, like we saw yesterday's daf. 6 went to the Batei Avos, and 4 went to the Bnei Tzlavcha. So it can't be, and meaning that's talking about the land of Eretz Yisrael. That's not talking about tents. Elamarabba Eretz Yisrael muchzek is he. So what we have to say, in which we said this. When did we say this? I don't know, 2 blot ago. We said Eretz Yisrael is considered muhsuk, meaning anybody who left Mitzrayim is considered as if they're mamish muhsuk. Right? Yes, so Mamela, since it's considered muhsuk, so it is that they are allowed to take double. So I'm going to ask the long kasha. Going through the history of Chumash over here, we really need Reb Doivo. We need B'meisvei. Meisvei. Amar Rabbi Chitka said, Shimon HaShikmuni hayali chaver. Shimon HaShikmuni was my friend. And we Talmid Rabbi Kiva, and he was Talmid
Because
Rabbi
we
Kiva.
couldn't go 3 daf without shikma.
What do you mean?
The sycamore trees.
Sycamore trees.
Oh, that's what you mean, sycamore trees. um, is that where it comes from?
Sounds like it.
I guess. Um, okay, I don't know. I don't know what. Maybe he was, but you think he was from like the sycamore people? Maybe. All right, whatever it is. So he was Talmid Rabbi Kiva. Reb Shimon HaShikmuni, and this is what he said. Moshe knew Shebenai Sachar Yarsha, saying he knew that they were Yarshas, right? Yeah, meaning what was the story there? They went to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu said, I don't know what's going to be, right? And also by the Mekoshish, also Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know what to do, right? So basically, the Gemara, he's going to say now, Reb Shimon HaShikmuni is going to say that Moshe Rabbeinu did know. Again, v'kachaya Reb Shimon HaShikmuni Omer Yedeya Moshe Rabbeinu Shebenai Slavchad Yarshasein Avaloi Hoya Yedeya. He didn't know im noitus chelik b'chayra elav. He knew that they should yarshin. He just didn't know whether they should get the double part or not. And really, the Parshas Nachala should be written through Moshe. There was a schus for the Bnei Slavchad that because Moshe wasn't aware of one of the halachas, so Memela, right? So, what I don't know. I guess it doesn't say why, right? It doesn't say why. Why were they zaycha? What they do? I mean, there had to be a busha, right? What? I understand, but why were they zaycha? Meaning, it sounds like it happened that Moshe Rabbeinu forgot or didn't. No, I didn't say forget. He didn't figure it out. Right. Right. But anyway, whatever it is, they had the schus. So anyway, so Moshe Rabbeinu really did know that. He just wasn't sure about the Bechor part of it. Not only that, he also knew the Mekoshish was Misa, right? With Mekoshish, there's a few options of what the Mekoshish did. Either he gathered all the wood, or he carried B'rishus Harabim, he did Hotzah, or he did Kaitzer, or he knocked down the wood. And the story goes that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know what to do with him, so he asked until they told him what kind of punishment. Right? He knew that anybody's machal Shabbos dies. But he didn't know which misa to give him. It should have been written through Moshe. The Mekoshish was the one that was chayiv, and it was written because of him. Antom Beis now to teach you Shemegalgalin schus al yedei zakai, the chayva al yedei chayiv. Right? That you megalgal schus through a zakai, and you're a chayva al yedei chayiv. Right? Meaning the schus of I'm assuming the Bnei Slavchad had some sort of schus. So Mamela, they were zaycha. And the chayva was ayidei chayiv, meaning the mekoshish, we learn how to chayiv through him. Okay, so what does it have to do with our Gemara? And if you think that Eretz Yisrael is muchzekes, meaning and memela, there should be a Yerusha and there should be a Bechor, So my comestopically, what was Moshe not sure about? We're saying Moshe wasn't sure whether they got the double. Right? Moshe wasn't sure if they were supposed to get double. Right? So, but what was the suffix? Or what was the suffix? Yeah. So Elamai, it can't be. If we thought maybe the suffix would be whether he gets it or not, meaning whether he gets the double because whether it's considered roikib or musik. But now we're saying very clearly that it's musik. So when it answers, he guvaka mistabically. That was itself, meaning whether Eretz Yisrael is considered a chazaka is what Moshe Rabbeinu was masug about the Chsiv Nasati Aisal Lachem Rashani Hashem. Because it says that I'm going to give you an inheritance, meaning in Eretz Yisrael. Ani Hashem Yerusha Lachem Avesechem. It's a Yerusha from your forefathers. Or maybe it means that they're going to give the Yerusha, but they themselves are not going to be Yerush it. Meaning he didn't know whether the people leaving Mitzrayim are ever going to make it into Eretz Yisrael. Upashtule tarayu, and Hashem answered both, meaning he said that both are true. There's going to be a Yerusha, but the people leaving Mitzrayim are not going to get to Eretz Yisrael. Yerusha lachem me'avesechem. It's going to be Yerusha from your forefathers, a Marishan ve'enon Yarshin, and they will be giving it. They'll be giving it as Yerusha, but they will not be Yarshin themselves. So now, of course,
What happened to Lo B'Shamayim? Moshe Rabbeinu had this. He had the Torah ready, so figure it out. Why? That's too big.
I thought you were going to say something else. That it sounds like it was in the cards already. That the Meraglim, right? So what do we do with that? I don't know. I thought that was the kasha you were going to ask, but same thing, right? I don't know if it's the same thing, but it's similar kasha. Unless they knew, right? Unless they knew that they're not going to make it to Eretz Yisrael, it's a matter of why or how.
Why wouldn't they make it there? It's a 2-month trip, or whatever it is, with 3 million people, so it's a little bit longer. Why shouldn't they make it?
No, I'm saying I guess something would go wrong. But something did go wrong, Lamaisa, right?
Well,
yeah.
Is this line necessarily going on all the Yotzei Mitzrayim? Or some of them were 103. They weren't going to make it necessarily to Eretz Yisrael. So it's like Hasha about those people who weren't going to make it. Do they already own it, or are they just Yarshim and Marisha?
I hear.
I mean, they were all ages. Some of them weren't going to make the trip.
Right. I hear. I don't know. I think the Pashup shot is just.
I think Amar just said they divided up Pesach night when they were all foodie on the Eagles.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Moshe Rabbeinu L'maisa what didn't get in either, right? Yeah, but okay, whatever it is. Point is that they knew both. They did both, right? Meaning they did Yarshin it, and they were able to give it over as a Yerusha. And the Gemara continues. It says, "Tivei Emoy v'siteima b'har nachala, b'har nachaloscha." It says you're going to bring them and plant them into the mountain of your inheritance, of your nachala. Yeah, Tivienu. Remember, it doesn't say you're going to take us. Ela Tivei You're going to take them. They were Navi, but they had no idea what they were saying the Navi about, which was that they would never make it into Eretz Yisrael. Fine. Now we'll go back to this.
Dr. Yaakov,
Yeah.
on the Havamina Rabbi Yehuda on Amud Aleph, so that the Gemara said it was metalpa that they were yashin. You say this Ireland. The Rashbam says that everybody had a tent over there. My history is a little bit lacking, but when up until when was the machlokas of whether or not they were in Sukkot Mamash or not?
You're asking me your history?
So I'm just saying, if it was a nane cover, like what's the Havamina? Like Meichatesa, everybody. Rashbam says nobody in the Midbar didn't have a tent. That's what they had. That was their metalpa. Who said they had metalpa?
You just said the Rashbam says it.
I'm trying to figure out historically if we have a machlokas whether or not it's Sukkot Mamash or not covered. So they might not.
It doesn't mean that they didn't have things that they lived in.
What? Oh, you mean you're asking
Yeah,
about
I don't
the
know
tents?
why
I
is
didn't
why
know
is
what you
one
asked.
dependent on the other. They couldn't have had both.
I'm
Maybe
sorry,
they could.
Ma.
I'm trying to.
I agree. I agree
know,
with Aaron. Maybe they had both.
They slept in tents besides for that, besides for the not covered.
I thought that. You didn't think you thought. I always thought that. I have no idea, but that's what I thought. But what, they slept outdoors?
No, whether it was Sukkot Mamash or not, there was some sort of like if it wasn't
I think
Sukkot
your
Mamash.
question is at
They
what
weren't.
point in time?
Yitzi. They weren't halachic sukkahs. They had everybody postled something on his sukkah, so they would be in sukkahs, but they're not halachic sukkahs. They all took something off. They all didn't do something according to Zaynish. So they had sukkahs, but they weren't yotzim.
That could be. I always thought it was like a nana covered type of sukkah.
I see. I didn't have this kasha because I always thought that they slept in tents, and they had the nane cover was sort of like the Iron Dome.
Yeah, but I think he's asking at what point in time were they in Lamanda Amar Sukkos Mamish? When were they in those like when did they sleep in the sukkahs? When it was like nice outside? Like when did if they were either sleeping in their tents?
According to the Gra, all three are correct. The Erev Rav and others were not in the Anania covered. They had Sukkot Mamish. Between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, after the second Luchas, until Sukkot, there were no Anania covered. Sorry, from the Chata Egel, from Shivas B'Tamid through to that Sukkot, there were no Anania covered. So if they didn't have Sukkot or Anania covered, they all had 10.
Is that okay? Is that
sounds familiar somewhat? But that makes sense.
There were no Anania covered. The Anania covered were taken away by the Chata Egel. And they came back between Yom Kippur and I think Erev Sukkot. The Yomer Hashem Salachti Kvarecha was the first step, and then I think 3 or 4 days later, the Anania covered came back.
Okay, so I don't know. I hear. I have my basic understanding, which I thought they had tents, but it could be I'm totally off. Right. But anyway, so what somebody just bring up? Oh, yeah, Rabban, you know what you're saying? It's a contemporary issue because got people that don't have room in their house and they want to eat in the Sukkah Simchas Torah. Where's Icky? Is Icky on? He's not on. They're asking for a heter to sit in the Sukkah on Simchas Torah because they don't have room in their house. So then, really, the din is you got to make it puzzle a little bit. The shilas, can you make it puzzle on Yom Tif?
Yeah, I was mamish talking about this with my friend last night because you're not supposed to make a puzzle on Yom Tif, but you could be meisif on oil arai, so somehow you could maybe put something over the schach to make a puzzle, but I don't think you could. I mean, I don't think you could you can't start taking down walls or taking down your schach.
My question was, I don't remember from last year. If you could take a broom,
if the guy had a schlock, you could just leave it on.
Oh, if you had a schlock, you have no problems. Yeah, if you have a schlock, it would be great.
Why can't you just take a sheet and put it over the top?
No, you have an oil issue, so you got to leave it part of it.
Why, you're making more of an oil than already there?
No, I'm saying you got to make sure it's on at least the tefach if you're putting it directly on. Also, there are rishonim that hold. Rabbeinu Tam holds that that's kosher sukkah. So I don't know.
Is that going to puzzle your sukkah also?
Right. So I don't know how far you have to go. How many rishonim you have to make your sukkah puzzle for? Whatever. Anyway.
Well, it's a chash deraisa, so you got to be careful, no?
Gershon, you look like you're in a puzzle sukkah right now.
I unfortunately don't have a sukkah.
Whatever. not my business.
How do you know it's not a kosher sukkah? Maybe it's a roof. It's a roof. Meaning, how come a roof is not? We discussed that already. Like, why is the roof? Yeah.
That's only when she'eino maziva.
That's true. That's true.
This is
No, but it's not.
definitely maziva.
It's not a chashash deraisa of Baltoisif because if you have in mind that you're not sitting in the sukkah for the mitzvah, then it's yeah, so it's only nirik about Tosif. That's the issue. It's nirik about Tosif.
And it probably wouldn't have to be yet as many Rishonim sister
yeah. The Shaila, they have all the Paiskim bring the Rebbes make a Nilas Hachag. They say they first daven mincha after Shkia, right? Till they get into the sukkah and they sit and eat Paris and they're way into Simchas Torah by night. So that's really what the Paiskim. So they say if you're already sitting in the sukkah, that's not about that. Only if you go out to the sukkah. All right, whatever it is. Okay. Fine. Let's see weiter. So then continue with the Benoit Slachar. Tamaydun lefnei Moshe lefnei Elazar HaKohen v'lefnei Atansim v'chol ha'eda. So they stood in front of Moshe and in front of Elazar HaKohen and in front of Nesim and Chol ha'eda. Meaning they had a lot of chevra here. The Benoit Slachar. They really held court. I mean, whoever wants to say that women can't speak publicly, I don't know what they do with this Gemara and these Psukim and Chumash because this was as public as it gets. But anyways. So after Amdu Lefnei Moshe v'lo yamru len davar, is it possible that they stood in front of Moshe and they didn't say anything? V'amdu Lefnei HaNesim v'chol ha'eda, and then they stood up in front of the Nesim and the whole Eda. And meaning if Moshe didn't have an answer and he was the Gadol Adar, let's call him that, then you think you're going to go ask the Nesim who are under him? Ella Saras HaMikra v'Dasho. What you have to do is you have to cut up the pasuk and you have to darshan it, which we had a few blot ago. That we have the wherewithal to do that. I mean, not us, but the Chachamim. That's what Rabbi Yoshi is. You cut it up, and that means that they went in front of each one. We'll see what the Gemara means in a minute with that. But based on Medrash, how you everybody was together in Besmedrash. Maybe it was Hoshana Rabbah by night. I don't know. Right? V'holchu v'amdu lefnei kulan, and they presented their shaila about that they should yashin their father in front of everybody. But my kamifkli, what's the machlokes with how this went down? One holds that you're allowed to give cover to a talmud in front of a rav, meaning if you give cover to a talmud in front of his rebbe, so is it may be a pigam in the cover of the rebbe. So the first sheet holds you're allowed to give covered, and right because that's adarabah, that's a cover to the rebbe that you're being mechabed even his talmidim. And the other one holds that you can't.
Isn't he allowed to be moichel on his own covet?
I don't think it's his covet. Is it his covet?
When he lets his talmud talk in front of him, isn't that being moichel on his own covet?
No, I don't think.
Why don't all the Dayanim in the Bezdin Agadol, they all spoke their opinions.
Right. They the cotton went first, fakert. By capital cases, the smaller ones went first because they didn't want it to be influenced by the bigger rabbis.
Dayanim have to do with Rebbe and Talmud?
Well, let's say they're all the Gadol does Talmidim. What's the big deal to understand?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, I hear what you're saying. You're saying that's not like the kvoida is not mochel. See, I don't know. I thought this is not a direct pigam in the covered.
Gemara Psachim with Rav. Rav is the one who holds the Rav Shemachal al Kaved Machal. That he told his Talmidim who didn't stand up for him when he poured wine that you're not right to be Talmidim. And then they asked him, why? You're the one who holds the Rav Shemachal al Kaved Machal. You poured us wine. You were Leichel in your covet. So what are you telling me we're not Talmidim? Says one thing to say that Rav Shemachal al Kaved Machal, that's from the Rebbe's perspective. From the Talmud's perspective, there's no such thing. You always have to give your Rebbe cover. This is going from which perspective? how can I go to the Talmud and walk to the Rebbe? That's a whole third perspective.
Is the Rebbe allowed to? Is the Talmud allowed to lean in front of his Rebbe?
You talking about by Pesach? Yeah, but I think Gershon's right. That's the Talmud's issue.
Yeah, the
Right?
Talmud
Now
needs to
in the
do what he
third
needs to
issue,
do.
there's the Rebbe's issue, the Talmud's issue, and the onlooker. We're talking about the onlooker now. Am I allowed to give cover to a Talmud when the Rebbe is there? That's a completely separate issue.
Okay.
I don't know. I hear what you're saying, Zeb, but I think I like Gershon's teretz. But either way, it's a machlokes. No. Anyway, so again, machlokes whether you give cover or you don't give cover. Hilchasa, what's the halacha cholkin? Hilchasa ain't cholkin. If that doesn't make it confusing, right? So halacha is that we do, and the halacha is that we don't. Okay, kasha hilchasa hilchasa. So kasha from one halacha to the other. So hilchasa le kasha. Had the polig le rabbi yakara. This for sure answers your questions there, right? One is talking about where the Rebbe himself gives covered, right? So if the Rebbe himself is showing cover to the Talmud, so then Avad everybody else can. And Hadaloi Poligle Rabbi Yakara. But if the Rebbe does not show him, so then if the Rebbe doesn't show him covered, so then there's no, then you're not allowed to show him covered, right? Which maybe that's because in Kvodei Mochel, maybe so. I don't know. Okay, fine. Weiter in the Benoit Slavchot story. So Tana Benoit Slavchot. Go ahead.
Shlomo was still with us. The Shabbos Hagadol drasha. Your uncle would give the drasha, and Shlomo would listen. And Shlomo sat by the bima. He didn't sit by his seat. He sat by the bima, and he listened to the drasha, to the charifas and the learning, that part. He asked kashas, but he listened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real covered. I was just curious if the Gemara meant from a cynicism perspective. If my Rebbe stood up for me, I'd be so embarrassed. I'd run the other there. Imagine everyone else then stood up for me too. That's 4,000 times more embarrassing. It's the opposite of covered.
Yeah, but what happens when a Rebbe wants to be mechabed his Talmud? How's that fall into this?
That's what Matali said to the drasha. Yeah.
Right, I'm saying, but that did he? Well, that could have been yeah.
He could be proud, but not expensive himself.
Ma?
Why? If he gave somebody, let somebody else say a drasha. That's
all right. I don't know. This is whatever. Okay, we can go on.
Okay, right. Tana Benoit. So now we go through how great the Benoit Slavchot were. So Benoit Slavchot Chachmani is hein. They were very smart, which the Rashbam says bederech eretz. Which I don't know what that means exactly. I mean, I know what derech eretz means, but they were chachamim. Is the Rashbam coming to say, don't think that they were chachamim, talmidei chachamim, as we call them. That when it means chachamim, they knew the ways of the world. Right? Is that what that means? I don't know.
It goes with the next words.
What?
The derech eretz, ba'alilus. The next words of the Rashbam. It goes, yeah.
Well, the next words, it could be darshani, you're saying. They were darshaners. So what does that mean? They talked a lot?
No, I'm saying when the Rashbam says it, the next Rashbam is when the Gemara explains what Chachmanius means.
Yeah, okay, I hear. Yeah, darshani is saying they darshan, and tzidkani is saying they were also tzidkanius. Chachmani is saying shalafi shad dibru, because they spoke at a good time. They chapped exactly when to open their mouths. Teaches us that Moshe Rabbeinu, he was learning the parsha of Yibum, which we know. Yibum is if somebody dies without kids. So the brother does Yibum. When brothers sit together. Right? So Amrullah, so then the Bnei Slavchad said when they heard that Moshe Rabbeinu was learning the dinim of Yibum, Im Kiben Anu Chashuvim, if daughters are considered like sons, to know lanu nachlu kaben, so then give us the Yerusha. Im lav, and if not, tisyaba mimeno, then if that means we don't exist, then our mother should have miyum miyad, right? They should get, I'm sorry, tisyaba mimeno, then our mother should get yibum mimanoshach. Either we exist or we don't exist, right? It sounds very feminist, but that's what the best way is asking. If we exist, we should yashin. If we don't exist, then let our mother get yibum. So
Is this a raya that we had this a couple times, that you're not supposed to teach Torah to women, right? But if women are there, you can give a drasha. It says here he was Yashuv Adirish. Moshe Rabbeinu was giving shir, and they were there in the middle of shir. They asked.
I hear. I don't know.
I mean, it's not stam. They went to ask a shaila. They were standing by shir.
Right. I hear, but you're saying that they must have always been by shir. Otherwise, had they know that this subject was being discussed, unless they saw them,
they waited for this to crop up. That's the Taichu Chachmani thing. They picked the right moment to ask.
They saw the Mara McCoimus.
That's exactly. They got the email of the Mara McCoimus, maybe. Otherwise,
they still had to be there.
So they went there because they knew it would be about their sugya.
Right. They put out a shmua that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to be talking Hilchos Yibum. So they said, "What's this Yibum all about?" Oh, now is our opportunity.
So they went to fear. They still went to fear.
Correct, but they went to fear because they knew that this was a subject that's going to be discussed.
That's what Rabbeinu Gershom says. Rabbeinu Gershom says they waited until it was Nizdam and a good time to speak when Moshe was paskening the parsha of Yibum.
Well, so then the question is, were they sitting there the whole time? That's the question.
Yeah, it's not clear, but either way,
imagine that nowadays.
Imagine that. That's exactly the point. Well, we do have women, you have women sometimes listening. I got 2 women listening into this year right now. So to be honest, I'm crashing my mother's sukkah because it was quiet. Now Nebuch, they came to eat supper. Now they're stuck listening to me. So it's okay, Ma. They're chachmonius, don't worry. They're chachmonius, that's tzidkonius.
She used to do it. She used to do the daf with us.
And they make lachmonius also.
Lachmonius, now you should know, it looks pretty good. I'm looking at those lachmonius while we talk over here, while we're learning it. Let me tell you.
Yaakov, if the bubby of the daf is there, we can all wish her a happy birthday.
Oh, Taka, it's a happy birthday. Yes.
Time to make my brachos.
Shana Rabbah.
You mamish have what was going on. You have an aim chokin covered leben, b'makom, yeah.
Okay. Anyways, weiter. Yeah. Garad, I just
Yaakov, the Sansa gave shir every day to his daughters and daughter-in-laws.
Okay.
I've heard that story recently.
I know.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know how that worked out, but
he also had Tish every day. He was a busy man.
Yeah, unbelievable.
He passed him like the Rashi and Nida. We'll get there eventually, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so miyad vayakri Moshe's mishpatan lefnei Hashem. So Moshe, like we learned on top of the daf, Moshe didn't know what to do with this, so he brought it in front of Hashem. Well, we said on the top of it, and Moshe knew exactly what was going on. He was just misupik about the Bechor part. Darshani is saying they would drush Darshani Shayu Imras because they said Ilo Hayeloi Ben Loi Dibarnu. They said, if our father would have had a son, we wouldn't have spoken. Right? Meaning, that means they knew that the son does become before the daughter by Yerusha. Oh, but the Gemara says, Vatanya Bas. It says in the Brisa that they said, if he would have had a daughter, right? Then we wouldn't have said anything, which doesn't fit with anything. So I'm going to have Yirmiyah Sam Mikan Bas. You have to erase that. You have to erase. That's incorrect, right? What they meant, they didn't mean if he had a daughter. They meant if he had a daughter to his son, we wouldn't have spoken, right? Because like we learned a few blot ago, the daughter yarshins the son, right? Tzidkani is saying, what does it mean? Tzidkani they didn't marry. They only married somebody who was fitting for them. They didn't just stop marry any yokel. Right, which is going to take us for the rest of the next daf. which is, were they allowed to marry other people? Were they not allowed to marry other, meaning out of their shevet or not? So we got to see that sugina. So Tani Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov, afilu ketana shebehen lo nisis pchusa me'arba'im shana. Even the youngest of the Bnei Tzlavchad didn't get married before 40 years old. So Gemara says, Aini, it's not true. If you get married less than 20 years old, you're ledis ad shishim. You're able to have kids until 60. Bas esrim, if you got married at 20, you're ledis ad arba'im, then you can only have kids till 40, which is maybe today, nowadays, this medically, the chances of getting pregnant after the age of 40 fall off a cliff. 38, 39, it's mamash falls off a cliff. All right. So, and most are getting married after 20. I don't know about that. Yeah. And Bas Arbayim, if you get married after 40, Shuv and Yoledis, then you can't have kids anymore. Right?
What is this? A Matthias and it's a Toiva? What's all this stuff? Like,
it seems like it's a Matthias. It's a biological fact.
I mean, if somebody gets married later, if somebody gets married at
not
40,
a he, a she, a woman, not a man. A man can have kids throughout.
She's not having kids. That's what it is.
Yeah, but this is not. I mean, nowadays it's not. I think people do give birth after. I mean, it's not common.
They do, but we have that whole controversy. It's not a controversy, but you have a lot of girls who are afraid that they're not going to get married, so they freeze their eggs, so that they freeze the eggs so they can have kids. They can have kids in your 50s, theoretically.
Don't we have the same issue that you birth control for pregnant women?
The Gemara. You're talking about the Gemara Yavamis.
Yeah.
I hear. We mean to the Matthias changed with that, you're saying? Yeah, I hear that, Peretz. It's hard to know. What?
What are you asking, Peretz?
The Gemara Yavamis says that one of the women that has a heter to use birth control is a pregnant woman because she may get pregnant the second time, and the second fetus will kill the first fetus, which is clearly the Matthias is not like that. Okay, whatever it is, but if the Gemara is saying there's three ages, right? She gets married less than 20 years old, she can have a baby till 60. She gets married after 20, she can only have a baby till 40. If you get married after 40, you can't have kids anymore. So how can the Bnei Tzlavchad? So what's the kasha? So maybe they didn't want to have kids. A woman doesn't have a mitzvah, right? So the Rashbam says they would never have gotten married. Nobody who would want to marry them, right? I mean, they would have been wrong. They would have been wrong for waiting till 40 because they would not end up getting married. I mean, they're waiting till 40 to find the right one, right? So the Gemara is saying, well, why would they do that for? Nobody's going to marry them at the age of 40, right? Then the Gemara answers even a bigger chiddush. Because they were tzidkaniya, so they knew. That's wild. The Rashbam says, second line up, they had such faith in their tzidkis, second line up in the Rashbam. They're going to have a nes just like Yocheved. That's why they knew they could wait till 40, right? Yeah, so it's
it's finished. You're not supposed to rely on a nes.
You're not supposed to rely on a nes, correct? Right.
But we have this somewhere else, right? Who else has this? We have this somewhere else.
Hanani ben Doisa put his foot on the snakes, on the entrance to the snake's thing.
Right.
The Marsha says there, he asked there, how is it not in Simchan Alanei? He says that for people that live on that Madrega, that's not a nace. If you know where you're holding, and you know what the Abishah can and can't do to you, whatever that means.
Yeah.
But he says there, it's not considered in Simchan Alanei. So if they were talking Tzidkanias and they knew they were Tzidkanias, it's not in Simchan Alanei. It's just, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because because say
that was my Purim costume 2 years ago.
Your Purim costume?
You don't have to stop for that.
What was it again?
Mchinin ben Doisa.
Was it? I don't know.
Because I was in Eretz Yisrael. I wasn't here. I don't tread on.
Oh, yeah, I was there.
Don't tread on me T-shirt.
Remember Zevi got it for him?
I wore that with the snake on it. And Zevi told me, whoever he is, who you are, tell me you're Reb Chanina ben Doisa. We'll see if we meet any Talmidei Chachamim on Purim.
Right. I remember that. Eretz Yisrael. Yeah. Anyways, but that's not the biggest chiddush of the Rashbam. The Rashbam then says that Yocheved could be is not a raya, meaning they were saying we had precedents that Yocheved got married after 40 and she had a baby. So they said, okay, we're going to be like Yocheved. But the Rashbam says, but Yocheved is not a raya. Could be she got married before 40. Yocheved, as the Gemara is about to say, was a remarriage. Right? So it could be she got married before 40. But they had such faith in their tzidkis that they said it's going to be all right, even if we get married after 40. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Anyways, what's the story with Yocheved? Yocheved is Moshe Rabbeinu's mother. She gave birth to him when she was 130 years old. 130? 130, yeah. 130? Yeah, 130. A man went out from Levi's house and it took a Bas Levi. Right, so that is Amram marrying Yocheved on Tomid Aleph. This is tomorrow's daf. So Efsher Bas Meya v'Shloishim Shana v'Kara Labas. She's called a daughter. She's 130 years old. Right? Damar Rav Chama bar Chanina. Because Rav Chama bar Chanina said it's Yocheved. It's referring to Yocheved. Shayrasa b'derech v'neloda bein hachaymes. She was conceived when they were on their way to Mitzrayim. And she was actually born when they were going through the walls. She was born to Levi Mitzrayim. Her birth was in Mitzrayim, but the conception was not. Okay, Vamai Karula Bas. That doesn't answer the question. Why was she called Bas? It was born on her simonim of young. She looked young. Nisadana basar, her basar became smooth. Nispashtu hakamatin, and the wrinkles smoothed out. V'chazara yafil and all the beauty came back. Right. So that's meaning. So that was the nace with Yocheved. So the Bnei Slavchad thought they would have the same thing. Vayikach, it says Vayachser, it says Vayikach, and Amram took her. It should be say Vayaser, and he went back and remarried her. Right? So again, the story goes as follows. What happened is that Amram decided once Paroi started killing all the boys, he said, what's the point of being married? Paroi's killing them out. To which what was the daughter's name? Miriam told him, says, so now you're doing even worse than Paroi. Not only Paroi is trying to wipe out the boys. We say it in Agoda, right? And you're trying to wipe out the boys and the girls. So he said, okay, I'm going to remarry my wife. That's how it went down. And then Moshe was born.
Yeah, that's why my Miriam is Miriam, because she's number 3. So we've more than replaced ourselves. So she's Miriam.
Very nice. Very nice. Oh, that's okay. Very good. So anyway, so what's it saying? Vayikach should be Vayachsar. So Amar of Yehuda bar Zvida Melamed she'asala ma'aser lekuchen. He mamish made a regular lekuchen, right? Meaning a regular marriage. So Shiva Bapirian, he put it into the Apirian. What do you call an Apirian?
People say chariot, but
like but like a fancy chairs or whatever it is.
Wagon, yeah. Oh yeah, wagon.
Yeah. Aaron and Miriam, and Aaron and Miriam. I don't know if it's a throne exactly. With Aaron and Miriam, and Aaron and Miriam were singing in front of her. And the Malachim said, "Eim abanim smecha." Okay, lahalon. Monon haka. Okay, so that's it. So then that's the end of that story. So now the Gemara says, lahalon monon hakasav derech gidulasan. Further on, it says, meaning later, when it talked about them getting married. So the Rashbam goes through the pasuk of the order. It says, "Vatiyena machla sirtza chagla milka noya b'noit slachad v'nei dedain l'nosh." So it says, "Machla tirtza chagla." Fine. The kan derech. What did I just skip? Lalan man because of derech kedulasan, their age. The kan derech chachamasan. Here they said it with the chachma, because then it says, "Machla noya chagla milka." This proves Rav Ami be yeshiva halach acher chachma. When you're talking about in yeshiva, right? So then you always go with the smartest. The smartest person gets the most covered. The mesiba, but if it's at a party, then halach acher zikna, you go after the age. Some Rav Ashi who the maflik b'chachma, that you only give that covered to somebody who's really, really head and shoulders above everybody else. For who the maflik b'zikna, or they're head and shoulders in age. Fine. So that's that. Then the Gemara Tana Tvei Shmuel, but not Slachat Shkulas Hayu. So meaning till now we're saying the Gemara just said that they were different levels of brains or chachma, whatever that is. Here it's saying they were all equal. It says they became. Havaya achas lekulim. It's one havaya. Havaya means it's one happening. One, so they were all the same. Fine. Amar of Yudam, then weiter about the B'nai Tzlachar. Amar Yudam, Shmuel B'nai Tzlachar, Putru li nase l'chol hashvatim. The B'nai Tzlachar had a dispensation, and they were allowed to marry any of the shvatim. We're going to see now in the coming Gemara that the halacha was that the first generation had to stick with their own shevet. They couldn't marry out. Later on, they could marry out, which we're going to see in tomorrow's daf, as some of the next day's daf, right? But the B'nai Tzlachar had a heter. Shenemar l'toy beineim tiyana l'noshim. To whoever's good in their eyes, they should be wives. Elamani mekayim ach l'mishpachas mata aviyim tiyana l'noshim. What about the pasuk that says that they have to go into the shevet from their father? Eitza toiva siyan hakasav. The pasuk is giving them a eitza toiva. Shalay yinasu elu lahagan lahem. They should only marry people that are right to them. Right. So the shilas was that pasuk ach l'mishpachas mata aviyim tiyana l'noshim advice or a chiyuv?
I thought that was the Yerusha to stay achuzis, to stay in Menashe. Didn't we learn that? Their inheritance, once they got their inheritance, didn't we learn that they have to marry into Menashe? That way the stay achuzis don't get transferred.
That was by Binyamin after Pelegish Begiva.
Wasn't it by B'nai Tzlachar?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe
that's
yeah,
what
maybe
I thought.
no.
That's what I thought we learned within the last week.
I agree with Naftali.
Is that what it said?
That's what I thought. I remember Gershon is shaking his head, so either I'm right or I'm very wrong.
It's by the Gairil. That
Which
wasn't
way,
that.
Which way is he shaking?
Shaking it. I had nothing to do with Bnei Tzlachar. That was the general Gairil to divide out the land.
I thought that they were supposed to something to do with the Yerusha, with their Yerusha, because they didn't have brothers. They had their fields would go to the next. Menashe would lose their fields if Menashe married outside, so that they should marry in Menashe. Dafka because of the Yerusha.
I can't believe I don't remember when we said. No, I could believe that. Again, what do you say? What's that? What did you say to Gemara son of Tali?
I thought that because the fields, the Seachuzas have to stay within Menashe, that if B'nai Tzlachar, when they got the inheritance and the Bechar and all the 3-4 portions, they got, if they go marry into Yehuda, then Yehuda is going to get those fields. But your children are going to be Yehuda.
Right.
So they were supposed. Part of the thing was they have to marry into Menashe, so their fields stay in Menashe. That's what I remember. Or I understood. I don't,
From this Gemara, where was the what?
No, I don't remember. That's you asking. Now you're asking too much.
It was 2 days ago.
Yeah, it was a few days ago, I think.
I know, but I'm trying to remember.
But that's good because meanwhile, Kalev and Yeshua had land all over the country. So,
well, that we're going to get to that too. Well, Yeah.
I don't know. We can go for. I'll try the Chazer over Yontif. I have something the project to find it.
Okay, good.
There's
Very
a
good.
lot. There's a lot of singing and davening. I'll take my Gemara with me.
Okay, very good. So anyway, so whatever the shiloh of the Gemara is, was it an Eitz Taiva or was it Chiyuv? So the Gemara right now is saying it's Eitz Taiva. Moisev Rabba, so the Gemara has a long kasha now. Moisev Rabba has the kasha, Emar Alehem, to say to them, La'oisan to who? La'oisan ha'imdim al Har Sinai, to those that are by Har Sinai, the Doreseichem. It says, for your daughters, Elu Doros Abayim, that's the daughters that are coming. Right? Which means that it's halacha that applies to all generations. Im nemar avos, lama nemar banim. So if it says avos, then what does it say banim? Im nemar banim, lama nemar avos. Right? Why? Each one has something unique about it. Ba'avos, who aimer by avos, it says v'chol bas yireshes nachala. Every daughter who yarshins something. The harbe mitzvahs in Savobonim, and there are many mitzvahs, right? Trumas, meisters, all that. That wasn't a gear to the first generation. Shalom Tzavos, the others didn't have that. That only happened. The way it went down is once they went into Eretz Yisrael, they did not have trumas, meisters. Only once the land was given out and everything was settled. So we're saying that since there are mitzvahs that are unique to each one, Hutzach Loimar, Avos, and Hutzach Loimar Banim. So that's why you had to say Avos and Banim. Right? Meaning so that the issa would apply to all these things. Katani mias, what bottom line is, what do we say? But avos who aimer v'chol basi reshes nachala. By the avos it said, every daughter who has a Yerusha should stick with her own shevet. So that should l'chayra include the Menos Slavchad. So my answer is, who must have loved whom afarag? He asked the kasha and he answered levar mi Menos Slavchad. Excluding the Menos, there's always an exclusion. Right? They were excluded. Fine. Amar Mar, but obviously v'chol bas yiresh nachala. But obviously it says every daughter who yarshins, but obviously in babonim loy. It's mashma that it applies to the father, not to the sons. My mashma. Where do we get that from? So Amar Rava, Amar Kra, zeh hadavar. This is the thing that Hashem commanded. Davar zeh loy yehi noyeg ela bedar zeh. That should be only on haga for this door. That door is the only door that should have that they can't marry out. What about when it says which is that you're not allowed to shecht any korbanos outside the Beis Hamikdash? Should that also not be noyeg only in this door? Are you going to say that every time it says Zeh Dover, it's only referring to that door? So that means only that door. So Shani Asam, there's different. It says for their generations, which means for all generations. On Talmud base. I'm going to do this. I hope you don't mind that we do this. I mean, it's drushes, so it doesn't go. It goes fast, but it's hard to understand. But we'll do it. I hope. Yeah. So it says Zeh. It's anyways good to learn extra Hoshana Rabbah. Zeh Adar, it beats staying up all night. So Zeh Adar, Zeh Adar the Rashi Amatos. This is referring to the head of the matas, right? Hachanami Deloye Noyeg Ela B'Dar Zeh. That's also only going to be in this door, meaning this is talking about Nedarim, that you need big people to be mataneda, right? So it's only in that door. Amaleha hu yolav zeh zeh mihasam. We learn out Exer Shava zeh zeh from there. So Gemara says Hainami leilaf zeh zeh mihasam. So then this one also you should say zeh zeh from there, right? So Gemara says Haimai bishlam mahasam itzrich l'Exer Shava. There by Nedarim and Karbanas outside the Beis Hamikdash you need Exer Shava. Hachalamai itzrich. Here, what do you need it for? To say that it's for every door, lishtok kramine, just be quiet. But no yadana la. Meaning, why do I need a gzera shava to tell you that it only applies to this door? Why would I think it? I mean, that it applies to all doors. Just be quiet, and that's what I would think. Telamai that it says a pasuk for that. So then that must mean that it only applies to that door and that's it. Fine. My gzeira shava. What is the gzeira shava? The Tanya nemer kan ze'adavar. It says here ze'adavar never lalon ze'adavar, and it says vayter ze'adavar ma lalon Aaron ubana v'chol Yisrael. Just like over there, it's talking about Aaron and his sons and all of Yisrael. That's talking about that they have to make sure they bring the karbanos inside the Beis Hamikdash or the Mishkan. Avkan Aaron ubana v'chol Yisrael. So to here. Ayatoras Nadarim, it's Aaron Ban of Kol Yisrael, Makan Rashi Amatis, and just like here by Nadarim, it's talking about the heads of the Matis of the Shvatim. Aflahalon Rashi Amatis. So to there, it's also the heads of the Matis of the Shvatim. What does this mean? So let's see Vaitis. Amar Mar Malalon Aaron Ban of Kol Yisrael, Afkan Aaron Ban of Kol Yisrael. L'mayhuch. So what's the halacha? Amar Rav. Achabar Yaakov Loimar Shafaras Nadarim B'Shloisha Hadyotis. The Chiddush is telling us that Hafaras Nadarim, knocking out Nadarim, is like what we do in Erev Rosh Hashanah. 3 Hadyotis. We don't need to have Mumchim, right? It can be Hadyotis. So I'm going to ask for Rosh Hamatis Ksivbe, but it says Rosh Hamatis. How could you say Hadyotis? To the Amar Rav Chista, Amar Rav Yochanan B'Yochid Mumcha. It's talking about a Yochid who's a Mumcha. Hachanami B'Yochid Mumcha, meaning you can either use 3 adjaitis or you can use a yachid who's a mumcha. Umakan. Then the Gemara says Umakan Rashi Amatis, Afla Alon Rashi Amatis. Or it says Omar Mar. The Bach says to put in Omar Mar. So Omar Mar. Umakan Rashi Amatis, Afla Alon Rashi Amatis. The Maichel. So what's that halacha for? Rav Sheshes Loimer Sheyesh Sheila Behektish. A new chiddush that there's such a thing as Sheila Behektish, meaning. If somebody makes a neder that he's giving a donation to the Beis Hamikdash, so then does that count as a meaning is it irreversible? Is it irreversible? So the Gemara is saying the chiddush is that no, it's reversible also. You can be mata neder. According to Beishamai, who says that you can't do that. The time Beishamai hektish tois hektish. If you make something hektish by mistake, it's hektish. And Bezillah says it's not hektish. Hi zev my. So what do they do? What are they doing with the gzeir show zev? Right? They can't. They're not using it for that. You can be mater neder to hektish. So when I answer ze'adavar the shchutei chutz mi boile, you need it for ze'adavar of shchutei chutz. Ala shoichet hu chayiv. You're chayiv for the shchita, ve'en chayiv ala moilek. But if you do malika is when you take the fingernail and you slice off the neck, right? That you're not chayiv. Ze'adavar the Rosh Hamatis. Okay, so that's what's coming for. So then ze'adavar the Rosh Hamatis mi boile, and the reason why you need ze'adavar by Rosh Hamatis l'chacham mater ve'en bal mater. A chacham could be mater neder, a bal cannot. Baal mefer ve'en chacham mefer. A baal can be mefer and a chacham cannot. This goes back to Nadarim, meaning a husband has 24 hours to be mater neder. That's called mefer. A chacham cannot do that. And after 24 hours, the chacham can be mater neder, the husband cannot. So then Gemara asks the Beishama, and according to Beishama, the less do gzeira shava. According to Beishama, he doesn't have the gzeira shava. Forest Nadarim b'shloisha yotis minolu. So he doesn't have the gzeira shava. So how does he know that 3 minor people could be mater nadarim? So nafkalu, he learns it out. Midatani, we learn the Brayso of Vidabra Moshe Moya de Hashem el Bnei Yisrael. We get this in, yeah. It says that Moshe spoke about all the Yom times of Bnei Yisrael. Rabbi Yossi Glili Omer. Rabbi Yossi Glili says Moya de Hashem Nemru. It says Moya de Hashem Shabbos Bereshis Loi Nemru. Shabbos Bereshis, which is this Shabbos, but it's not. It really means every Shabbos. It doesn't say, right? Meaning, Klal Yisrael, the Rabbeinu Shalom gave Klal Yisrael the rights to make Yom Tov because they're the ones that decide when Yom Tov is. But Shabbos is every 7th day. Moya de Hashem Nemru. It says Moya de Hashem Hafaras Nedarim Loi Nemru. It doesn't say Hafaras Nedarim. So, Rabbi Yosef, we have to continue. Let's say Rabbi Yosef Renasan Gomer Lo Lahamasni. So Rabbi Yosef learned this brisa, but Lo Yada Leila Frush. He didn't know what the pshat was. Also, Basra the Rosh Hashis to Nardo. He went after Rosh Hashis to Nardo. V'Lo Ashkechei. He couldn't find him there. Also, Basra and Mechuzah, he went to find him in Mechuzah. Ashkei found him. Amrlei, my Moyadei Hashem, Nemru Shabbos Bereshis Lei Nemru. Why is it saying Moyadei Hashem, but it doesn't say Shabbos Bereshis? Amrlei said Moyadei Hashem, Tzrichen Kiddush Bezdin. Because Yomim Tovim need Bezdin. That's why it says Mekadesh Yisrael Vazmanim, right? When we say Mekadesh Yisrael, because Klal Yisrael makes it into Kodesh, because we decide when Yom Tov will be. Shabbos Bereshis ain't a tzricha Kiddush Bezdin. Shabbos Bereshis doesn't need a Kiddush Bezdin, right? Meaning you don't need a Bezdin to every week say today is Sunday, and then Mamela the seventh day is Shabbos. Because we would have thought Hailuk Sivi Gabi Mayadois. Since it says by Mayadois, it mentions Shabbos is by the laning of that we had in Yom Tov by Shara Kesef Tibai Kiddush Bezdin Kamayidas. You would think that Shabbos needs Kiddush Bezdin. Did I freeze?
No.
Oh, okay. Tibai Kiddush Bezdin Kamayidas Kamash Malon. That tells us no, that there's no comparison and you're not Mekadesh. Okay, my Moyadei Hashem Nemru Hafaras Nadarim Le Nemru. What does it mean that it says Moyadei Hashem, it doesn't say Hafaras Nadarim? Moyadei Hashem Tzrichen Mumchen. Moyadim, to make Yom Tov, you need a Mumcha. Hafaras Nadarim ain't a Tzrichen Mumchen. That's how we got into this whole thing. Hafaras Nadarim doesn't need Mumchen, meaning any plain people. But it says Roshei Hamatas Ksiv, it says Roshei Hamatas. That's referring to a Yachid Mumcha. Right, a Yachid Mumcha can do by himself. But if you're doing three, then it could be, meaning if one person's doing it himself, he has to be a Mumcha. If it's three people, if you're doing three people, they don't have to be Mumchas. Okay, I guess we're caught up, Baruch Hashem.
I remember a little bit more about the Gemara. I don't know where it is yet, but it was discussing if a woman stands to inherit her father and she doesn't have brothers, and even it went in further discussed if she had a brother that died and after she was married and then she inherited. The Gemara was discussing those, and that's where it came up with that if you're the daughter, you have no brothers and you're the daughter, to inherit your father, you have to marry within your Shevet.
That's Kufyut to Kufyut
If
days.
you're the daughters,
Yud days. Yes, on Ahmed days. Yeah.
How can you go say, if you're a daughter that stands to inherit their father, you don't have a brother, you have to marry within your Shevet. We discussed the case where she got married outside because we came up with that she had a brother who died. That's how she married out. How could
that had nothing to do with B'nai Tzlavchad.
How could that be? B'nai Tzlavchad is the exact case.
Yes, so the pasuk says by B'nai Tzlavchad
that they could marry out.
You can marry anyone. No one else can. You can marry anyone.
Okay. Right, but that was the
next line of the pasuk is the problem.
Yeah, but now that you bring it up, why Taka did they have a dispensation?
I don't know. The pasuk doesn't say why.
I don't know. It seems that the next Gemara is going to discuss it. It seems the next Gemara, because the introduction to Art School, the Gemara previously discussed the permission to marry outside the tribe. The permission pertains to a daughter who stands to inherit a legacy. Now the Gemara begins a discussion that will eventually touch the point upon this law. So maybe we'll find out.
That's true, but it doesn't. It's not. I don't think it's going to answer it tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. Let's see it. Tillim. Yud Gimel, V'Manatzeach, Bizmar LeDavid, Adona Adonai Tishkacheni Netzach, Adona Tastes Penechem Mimeni, Adona Alshes Eses Benafshi Yogam Bava Yomim, Adona Yorm Oive Eloi, Habita Anini Adonai Eloi, Ira Ina Penishan Amavas Pen Yomer Oive Chol Tetzeri Gilu Kiyamait,